So I study democratic collapse. Here's one way that fear reliably brings down democracies. In her book, How Civil Wars Start, Barbara Walter discusses an idea called downgrading, or the phenomenon by which a majority or dominant group in society becomes the most likely group to initiate political violence, dependent on their perspective of the trajectory of political power. So, if a dominant group fears losing political power permanently, they become vastly more likely to engage in violent or anti-democratic behavior. Notably, this is not because of independent political defeats, but because of structural shifts affecting the maintenance of dominance. So riffing off that a little, something I see in the United States is that in today's political climate, there's a lot of fear around replacement, broadly speaking. And this is cast in a few different ways. There's the more obvious, ethnically oriented Great Replacement conspiracy of far-right nationalists, but there's another fear of replacement that I'm talking about. There's a feeling on the right that prior to the second election of Donald Trump, the left wing had ideologically captured a series of social and political institutions, like social media and the universities, for example, and had permanently changed their character. Conservatives felt systemically disadvantaged in the cultural scene because of this. I think this perception of cultural replacement is almost just as relevant as ethnic replacement, because these cultural arguments can be used in the exact same way but without the baggage. The Republican Party is as diverse as ever, because the fear of replacement that they are appealing to is not ethnic, it's cultural. They can do this while simultaneously enacting rules that do negatively impact minorities, like DEI education and voting rights restrictions. The long-term effect of these policies will likely be the reprioritization of conservative demographics that happen to be overwhelmingly white. The cultural and ethnic identities here are largely aligned, but by appealing to one and not the other, the long-term effect is hidden. I think the Republicans feel incredibly vindicated now in their conservative identity, and they feel empowered to do basically whatever it takes to reverse the political trajectory they saw as declining. Because they viewed themselves as being permanently shut out of the cultural sphere, though that wasn't the case, the radical actions they take now appear to be justified, even though they break with any concept of philosophical conservatism. They want to restructure the system, not just be another player in it. Hence the total dismantling of federal agencies like USAID, and a president who is undeniably pro-political violence when it agrees with him, and will apparently pardon anyone who does it. Their fear of replacement, whipped up by right-wing media and political figures like Trump, justifies this to them. I think it's important to remember that American pluralist democracy is an experiment, and not everyone is equally dedicated to that idea. In response to a false fear, Republicans are now engaging in real attacks on the fundamental framework of the United States, with a strongman in charge claiming to be their retribution. This effort, if successful, will create a long-term tilt in their favor, an unfair bias that no major Republican faction will ever fight, because it cements their power over all others. Once again, for them, it's not about values, it's about fear and power.